What is your local tradition? Maybe it's a strange instrument, or maybe it's a dance that no one else has really heard of, but if you are from the city of Gävle in Sweden, you would answer something very differently. Here it would be committing arson by going up to the biggest tourist attraction of your city and burning it to the ground. But how did we get here, and how has this arson tradition affected the city? It all began in the winter of 1966. December is the best time of the year for anyone who tries to sell something. Christmas, combined with New Year's, combined with a holiday, makes people really eager to buy things. In Gävle they could do that in two places. One that was really popular and cool called the Grand Square, and then one that just kind of sucked called the Castle Square. This made the businessmen of the Castle Square very sad, because they wanted people to spend money there. That's when they had an idea. Let's make a giant goat out of straw and put it right in the square during December. No sane shopper could ever resist that. I'm talking 13 meters high, 3-ton goat, all made out of incredibly flammable straw. The first installment of the Gävle goat was made on the 1st of December 1966. This was proven to be very successful, and more people came to the Castle Square and Gävle as a whole. All the way until December 31st. Only 2 days before the goat was meant to be taken down, someone went up to it with a lighter and burned it down. Which sparked a new part of the tradition. Ever since the goat was first put up in 1966, it has only survived 19 out of 57 times. Most of the attacks consist of young man with a dangerous amount of alcohol and a lighter, but that's really not all of them. I'll get more to that in a minute. Anyway, the next 2 years the goat stood safely throughout December and was taken down January 2nd as planned. But once again, in 1969 it was burnt down on New Year's Eve, and in 1970 it was burnt down 6 hours after it was put up. This made the businessmen go, look, we're very tired of people burning it down, so we're just not gonna make it anymore. And we're kind of rich anyway, it's not like we really need it. When this was announced, the city of Gävle became rather disappointed. Both watching this goat and waiting for the day someone tries to burn it down had become kind of popular traditions at this point. To fix this, a nearby school called the School of Vasa picked up the tradition. The very next year they built their own Gävle goat, only slightly smaller since they didn't have the same money. The School of Vasa were responsible for building the Gävle goat from 1971 to 1985, and as you can see, these were very tough years for the goat. In 1971 it was tragically beaten to death. In 1973 it was kidnapped by a man who put it in his backyard. That man was arrested for grand larceny and awarded with 2 years of jail. In 1975 the goat was too stressed with everything going on and collapsed by itself. In 1976 it was hit by a car and also collapsed. In 1979 it was burnt down before it was even put up, so they built a new one. This one was beaten to death. During this period of arson, kidnapping and also destruction, the goat became somewhat of a celebrity worldwide. People really like the story of a giant straw goat being built every year, only for other people to burn it down or beat it to death, both of which are completely illegal. But the tourists weren't the only people who grew fond of it. You see, the businessmen from before saw what a big success it had become, and that's when they got an idea. We have so much more money than these children, we can make a bigger, better, and even more flammable goats. We started this tradition, and now that it's famous and all, we feel ready to pick it up again. But the school had continued this for so long that they didn't want to stop just because rich men with top hats told them to, so they also continued. From 1986 onwards, there have been 2 goats. One built by the businessmen, usually called the Gävle goat, and a smaller one built by the school of Vasa, which is usually not called anything because people don't know it exists. And yes, they are this close to each other. From here on out, when I talk about the goat, I'm not talking about the smaller one built by the school. I'm talking about the big one, or Yuki Tsunoda depending on the context. With that said, 1986 to 2016 were also some tough years for the goat. In 1989, it was burnt down before it was even put up. In 1992, both goats were burnt down on the same night. The big goat was rebuilt and also burnt down again by the same man. He managed to burn down 3 goats in the span of 3 weeks. In 2001, a guy from Cleveland, Ohio burnt the goat down after being convinced it was a fully legal tradition. In 2005, 2 happy vandals dressed as Santa Claus and Gingerbread Man fired a burning arrow at it, and it did indeed burn down. 2016 in particular was a big turning point for the goat. It was the 50th anniversary. Over 18,000 people went to see it on the first day, and even Mr. Tom Scott was one of them. If the goat wasn't already famous, it sure was now. But still, only a few hours after the celebration started, the goat burnt down to the ground. This really became the last straw for our favorite businessmen. So for 2017, they added a second fence around the goat. 2 24/7 guards trained to smell gasoline from a mile away, and also webcams to spot any potential vandals. At this point, you might be questioning a very important detail. Why even protect the goat at all? Considering how much publicity the city gets when it burns down, why even bother? To understand this, I think it's important to know that Gävle isn't a city of that many qualities. It's a place with the sunshine from April to September and eternal darkness for the rest. When it comes to dreaming of a white Christmas, in Gävle, you really don't need to dream. It's a very common thing. If you'd look up a list of best things to do in Gävle, you'd see that the goat is in first. Number 2 is a park, and number 3 is the Swedish Railway Museum. Basically, if you don't want to watch the goat, you're probably not going there. But the goat is only displayed from early December to early January, and if it's burnt down within the first few days, people who are going to see it later will just cancel their entire trips, and then the city misses out on a lot of money. After all of the added security in 2017, the goat has only been destroyed twice. In 2021, someone managed to sneak past the guards with a lighter. He was caught on camera and got a nice cell in jail. But in 2023, the goat was destroyed in a bit more of a strange way. Because of the very rainy summer, the hay for the goat wasn't as dead as it usually is. So what happened was that birds ate the poor thing down to its core. And that brings us to present day. It is currently the middle of the summer, so the goat is about as irrelevant as it could get. As far as I know though, in December there will be a new version of the Gävle goat. Maybe it will burn down again, or maybe it will explode for a change. I really don't know. We just have to wait and see. But enough about that goat. Let's talk about the goat of Formula 1. Yuki Tsunoda really came 7th in the Ratmobile, as I like to call it. I think he pulled away from British man George even. It was very impressive stuff. definitely GOAT material. I'm recording this before Canada, and right now he's got 19 points. And I'm assuming after Canada he's gonna have like a 45 points. That's what I think. Unless it's a sprint race, then he's gonna have more, but I don't think it is. He's GOAT. That's a GOAT. If that's not a GOAT, I really don't know what is.